The following program is recorded live and intended for all audiences.
Radio is scripted now. We just come up with it. We don't use computers. We don't rehearse. We're going to talk about this next. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Bulls. And then we're going to have Brad Bixon. And then we're going to have all this. No. If you don't know what you're going to talk about in the top of your head before a show, you shouldn't be in the business. I don't know what you got. I feel like Vince Vaughn in a couple's retreat. The Sharks are circling. Old school, baby!
You're listening to the Mike North Advantage, and it begins right now.
That's right, the Mike North Advantage starts right now. I am Aldo Gandia, Mike's wingman, and we've got another very special Monday night edition of the Mike North Advantage show. Hallelujah! Gambling has arrived to the state of Illinois. Mike is going to fill us in on all the latest, and we'll talk about the NBA and NHL playoffs and get a little baseball in. But Mike has a very special guest tonight. I'll let him introduce her. I'm just going to sit back and have some fun. Mike North, how are you, my friend?
I'm good, Aldo. I'll be talking to you down the line. You'll have some chat board questions out there, and then, of course, your questions and stuff like that. But before we go any further, behind, that saying behind every man is a good woman. No, beside every man is a good woman. And she's been beside me for 44 years already. I was just seeing where Jordan Cornette and Shea Pepler getting married yesterday or over the weekend. Saw them on Twitter. They looked absolutely elegant. They're just starting. We're still in our prime. No doubt about it. I'd like to introduce my beautiful, wonderful wife of, I think it's 41 years. I've lost count. BB. What's up, B?
Hello. It's a pleasure to be with you guys tonight. I'm very honored.
It was hard to book you.
Yeah, it was. You had to really talk me into it, didn't you?
Yeah, it was over Masticholi. Well, it's really good that, you know what, B, all these years you've been behind the scenes. You've won a couple Emmys. Me and you won these Emmys for TV production. You had never done it before. You were in the top, percentile of your class at Mundelein, Loyola. Yeah, you took nutrition, yet you owned 3 hot dog stands. Then we got into the radio thing, and we had a good time with each one, but each one was a challenge. It wasn't easy. With the hot dog stand, it was physical. It was 16 hours a day. With the radio, it was a whole different ball game. And especially when we first got married the first 10 years, we lived in a building where we had no air conditioning, right?
Oh, yeah, there was no air. Well, we bought an air conditioner, but we didn't realize that we couldn't use it because every time we used it, we blew fuses. So remember fuses before circuit breakers now? And so we'd put it on, it would run for like a half an hour, and then the fuse would blow. And so we were like, okay, well, it's a little cool in here. So we didn't even think, to be honest with you, at the time, we didn't even think, oh, gee, could we use this air conditioner in the apartment? We just assumed we could. Well, we were wrong.
Yeah, that was over around the Belle Plaine area, around Irving Park and Kedzie. We had, and what was unbelievable is during the summertime, when it was one of the hottest summers ever, our first couple summers there. Plus,
of course.
I remember there was about a 2-3 week span where the air conditioning broke in the hot dog stand, and then we'd go home, and there'd be no air conditioning. So BB and I would go to this restaurant that used to be on Irving Park. I don't think he's still around, but Monzo's. We used to go in there and sit there for 3 hours, ordered some dinner, some wine, and sit there, or we'd go to Jewel.
Yeah.
And walk around the Jewel just to get cool, remember?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and then it was, let's put it this way, part of that, of living life like that, though, makes you appreciate later. I think it's good to be challenged. I think it's good to be tested. I think it's good for your relationship, for yourself as a person. All these different, challenges that you meet in life make you who you are today. And I like who we are today, so I guess that was okay that all happened back then.
Yeah, but there was about 10 or 15 different rocky roads we could have
Only
gone
10
either
or
way.
15, Mike?
Well, I'm trying to be conservative. I'm not trying to get a little crazy. There was, all of a sudden the radio thing hit. You were there for everything. Oh, by the way, I just want to let everybody know it's a 7:08 game I am taking the Blues tonight. So at -110, that's one of the picks. You're listening to Bears Barroom. For those people live, I'm taking the St. Louis Blues tonight. A bingo, bango, bongo.
I'm glad you got that in, Mike.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure. Because we're going to talk about legalized gambling because you've been through all the gambling with me.
Oh, yeah.
Over all these years
but
since
you know
we
what?
met.
I think what helped, to be honest with you, not in sports gambling, but I think because I was always a gambler, because I enjoy gambling myself. Not on sports, because that's just not my thing. But I've always enjoyed gambling, so I think that made it a little bit easier for you because I enjoyed gambling, so I understood the concept, and I embraced it a lot more than maybe some other people would because, I like.
Well, you never thought it was bad.
No, I really didn't. I've never thought it was that big. I mean, it's just it was part of life, and people gambled, and let's go for it. That kind of thing.
So I mean, I never had that. That was one of the deals where. You know what? It was cool. The only problem was early on, you had to turn in your coin collection. I got to be straight up about it. I've never shied away from it. We were short a little cash. I got a little bit overextended. And you had that coin collection since how old?
Well, I had, thank God we had it though. But it was at that point in time.
I've never felt so guilty in my life.
Yeah, because you want to see Mike sheepish. That was Mike sheepish at the time, but we turned it in, and because we had to pay some cash, and truthfully at that time, it was big bucks. I mean, we didn't have anything hardly. So when you're talking thousands of dollars, when you don't
have to get so darn particular.
No, but what I'm saying is,
I agree.
Yeah, but so at that time, that was a big hurdle for us, but we managed to get through it, and that's the way it goes. I mean, like I said, those are all things that have made us. And truthfully, what's great about it, and anybody who's going to be newly married or thinking about marriage or in a young relationship, whatever, those things that happen to you at the time, which seemed like so bad,
right?
Years later, I'm serious.
It's nothing.
You laugh at them,
right? I
laugh now about it because I remember how. We were like, we were scared and worried and all these different things. And now I think, oh, my God, we were just, it's just part of, growing up and experiencing things. But
well,
what's
funny? You know what's funny is that I told you at the time, I'll never forget, I said, I'll get that back. Someday I'll get it back. Mm-hmm. But then I kept losing, right?
Yeah.
I kept losing.
Mm-hmm.
I'd win every so often, but not win as much as I'd lose. And then what's happened over the last 5-6 years, I remember when I first sat down with B, I said, listen, I finally figured it out. Now, B, how many times have you heard me say that? Whether it's me, Joey Montalbano, whether it was any of the guys we hung out with.
Can I just tell you, let me just take a little side trip here.
Right.
Because some of the times that, we had guys in our house gambling on games, and having, God knows how much money on it. I didn't even want to know, to tell you the truth. Mm-hmm. And the screaming and the yelling and the cheering and the oh no's and the depths. I mean, there was a lot.
We used to come. Yeah. We'd have a big party on New Year's Day. New Year's Day, when the big bowl games, all the big bowl games were played on that day. That's what, before the national championship was played 3 months later and all this other BS. But we always had fun with the gambling. We had the big boxing. How about the night? I was, me and another guy, out of like 20 guys, I was the only guy with Holyfield.
Yeah, I remember that night so
well. I won
big
money that night because of Holyfield, right, B?
Yep, yep. And it was just, I mean, you know what? You had him, but you almost couldn't believe it when he won. It was just like one of those things.
I couldn't believe it because I won.
Stunned. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So then, you know what? Then we start turning things around. Now I'm working at Bears Barroom. Well, it's not work. It's beautiful with Aldo.
It's fun. Yeah.
And then it opened it up for ESPN 1000. We're winning whenever we, do our thing. And plus, you get paid. Too on top of it. So I told you someday, eventually, I'd get that back. But I did feel bad. That's one of the worst times when I had to turn in the coin collection. And it's going to be in the movie. By the way, speaking of the movie, What happened was, we're still on the first act. We haven't given an update, B, but you and I are filling in the blanks. Mainly
absolutely. And what's cool is, just to give them a little bit of information, Jeremy sent us Act 1. And so we're reviewing it because he left some holes, which is totally understandable because he didn't know everything. So I'm working on it, and so is Mike, of course.
But tell him what happened. A lot of it got wiped out because of the new thing we have, right?
Yeah. Oh, you mean as far as the software?
The software. We had to get software because, it was much easier for you then to fill in the holes.
Right, because what happened, I was trying to fill this in like by hand, and you can't, if it's on a computer, you can't just make any changes to it, just because of the format that it was in. So I found out that I had to buy the software. We had to buy software, which we did, and then install that. So there's a little bit of a learning curve to use it because it's different, because it's in a script form and all this kind of thing. But I've been learning it as we go along, and I'm making some adjustments. And I'll tell you the truth, I get very nostalgic because I'm at the early part of our relationship where I'm editing right now. And, you start thinking about things and you sort of, you get a little, sentimental because you're remembering things. So it's been actually quite fun to do.
Apparently you haven't gotten to the bad part yet.
No, I haven't gotten any bad parts yet. Yeah.
Well, you know what? Here's the deal. And this is the beauty of it. You were there, and it's going to be the crux of. In fact, we were watching this movie tonight where we saw a girl that we said, you know what, she'd make a good you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we're getting to the point now where the bottom line is you were at the hot dog stand that day. So why don't you tell everybody your rendition of what you remember?
Of the hot dog stand, what day?
When Danny Lee walked in.
Oh, my God. You know what? My favorite part of the whole thing, though, was it was pouring rain that day. And, of course, I don't know what it was, but our hot dog stand is, it was 750 square feet. So it was a little place, but we had so many great times there. But we were packed. We were always packed the days it rained. I have no idea why.
Well, because the people still had to come eat because there was factories all over the place.
It'd be like 90 degrees, a beautiful day, nobody'd be in there. But the days it's pouring, we'd be packed. So anyway, we're packed, and it's pouring. And, of course, Danny Lee, who was such a great guy, and Seth Mason, who was a sort of a very, for lack of a better way to describe it, sort of a prim and proper kind of guy, everything by the book and very, just meticulous about things. Mike is telling him, that they're nuts to be doing this country station or jazz. I mean, literally, because this is the way Mike talks. He said, you guys are nuts.
In front of everybody.
Yeah, just like, they're playing.
Nobody knows anybody. They're all waiting in line, and I'm telling these guys this.
Yeah, he goes, you guys are nuts. What are you, crazy? And have you ever heard of the fan? And he's going on and on and on. And they were just sort of looking at him like, oh, my God, just give us our food so we can get out of here. But they did end up eating in our place, which was interesting. They did eat at the counter because we just a counter and with stools and stuff. And Mike, of course, the whole time is because Mike used to stand at the register and take orders, and the money, of course, because he was always good with money.
Yes.
And so he'd be taking the money, and we'd be making the orders. And while he's taking these orders, he's still yakking across the place to the guys sitting in the corner, Seth and Danny Lee. And they just keep nodding their head and looking at him like, oh, geez, And so finally, when they were getting ready to leave, Mike runs out from behind the register because they parked right there. Was like a thing right in the front.
Like an apron.
Yeah,
like you could pull up an apron. It was like an old driveway,
yeah, exactly.
Where you could put 2 or 3 cars.
Right. And they used to park. A lot of people used to park right there. So they pulled up. They were almost like on a sidewalk kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they get in their car, and Mike's at the window. Now it's raining. And they roll the window down, and Mike is outside in the rain, yelling at them.
They did the Leslie Chow on me.
Yeah, yelling at them about the station. You got to do it. You got to do it. And then you got to give me an opportunity. And he's, and they just roll the window up and they pull away.
And then later on,
and Mike came in and he goes, I'm not sure, but I tried to convince him, and I was like, oh my God, can you just get back to the counter?
And then what happened was. Then what happened is he went home that weekend.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That very weekend.
And the beauty of this, Mike, was, though, that I thought, which we didn't know until so many years later, when you went to Danny with Jeremy, who's writing the
Jeremy
movie,
Morrison, right?
Jeremy Morrison,
with Adam Rifkin,
right? And you didn't know this story till just recently, which I think is so cool because I think it's fun to learn something.
That Danny Lee went and bought the newspapers over the weekend. The Sunday papers. They used to come out on Saturday. Murph always talks about the Bulldog edition. And Danny Lee bought the Sunday papers on Saturday night, Tribune, Sun-Times, went home, counted the amount of entertainment ads, and then counted the amount of ads that were in the sports section. It was like 7-1. 8-1,
and,
9-1.
Revenue always speaks louder than anything else. Let's face it, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'll tell you what, the hot dog stand was a gas though. We had 16 years, 3 different hot dog stands, busted our tail. We got rated number 1 in the USA Today, Rolling Stone magazine for Chicago's best hot dog. A little joint like that. Best brownies by Pat Bruno. We beat out bakeries. It was awesome, B.
Yeah, you know what? I'll tell you the truth. What I treasure the most is so many great people that we met that we still know today. And I really appreciate that because I think that the people is what makes it so valuable and priceless. It really does. It's just, we had some unbelievable experiences there, memories that I will treasure always.
And then we kept the hot dog stand 1 year.
Right.
After the score started.
We just wanted to make sure that Mike was secure there before he left because, this was our living, and if we sold it, and this place we had a good business there. I mean, we worked for it, but we had a good business, and I didn't want to get rid of it and then find out he didn't have a job anymore. And now we're like, now what, So we just had to make sure that we had some security before we could sell that place.
Yeah, and I was never that worried about it. In fact, Danny Lee says there were other personalities that will be in the movie that were a lot more worried than I was. In fact, he says you were the one that wasn't worried. But I understood those guys because they had other things they were doing too, just like we had the hot dog stand.
Yeah, but you know what's interesting, and I think you and I always had this mentality, maybe different.
No, I knew right
people.
away a sports station would work. Man.
Yeah, but it's just like, now you're exactly right, Mike. The hot dog stand was the same way. We went into those hot dog stands never even thinking that we would fail.
Right.
Just like you went into the radio, never thinking you would fail. And now when I look back, I think, wow, you're very naive because the chances of failing are very drastic, Well,
if I had thought about it,
if
we had thought about it, well, you know all the heat I took.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. Which really, all the heat we took for a lot of different things. And a lot of it was because I was just really good. And I really shook the power brokers. That's what really pissed people off.
But, Mike, I think the other thing that was really valuable about this was that because, for anybody that knows Mike, Mike's always had a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, but that's part of his reason for his success because he did have that chip. And I think that chip that you had to begin with sort of propelled you to be even more successful because you believed in yourself and you wanted to prove that you were as good as you believed that you were. You always had confidence. Always, from the day I've known you, you've always had confidence. And I think confidence is a big part of people's success. And obviously it worked for you. So.
I had you. That's what I had. Let me tell you something. And anybody who knows me knows this. Look, I partied. I ran. We had a great time, B and I. When the big money came in, we went to Italy. We went to London. We went all over the place. We had fun. We took our families to New York. We had the Ellis Island Awards, Emmy Awards, the 4 Air Awards. Every one of them we cherished. And then to be on TV and to be best. Tell the Walter Payton story. You got Walter Payton a pen and pencil set, right?
Oh my God! You know what? I'm going to tell you the truth. Mike and I, we adored Walter. We just adored him. He was such a sweetheart of a guy, and so fun and just gentle on so many levels. But the interesting thing was, I guess this is my assumption, and Mike's too, of course, that we always assumed Walter had everything, right? He could buy anything he wanted. He probably had gobs of stuff. People probably just showered him with things. But we thought, actually, it wasn't a pen and pencil set, Mike, if you remember.
It was a humidor, wasn't it?
No, it was binoculars because What happened was,
okay.
I wanted to buy him, because his son at the time was in school. And I thought, you know what? And I don't know if you remember, but we had this conversation. I said, you know what? Sort of corny, but maybe we could buy some binoculars so when he goes to the games he can get
Because he said he couldn't see from where he was standing.
Right, a close-up of his son. And so we bought him these. I mean, they were, I don't know how much money they were at the time, but we bought him a nice one. And
we bought him the best.
Yeah, and we gave it to him as a gift.
And during the show, when we opened the gifts for Christmas at Carlucci's, I'll never forget this. He opens his up during the show from me and you. And he sees the binoculars, and he got up and walked all the way through the crowd to give you a kiss.
I know. I couldn't believe it. And you know what he said to me? To this day, he goes, nobody ever gives me anything. They always expect something from me. And I was like, wow, that just really sort of threw me, because I thought, are you kidding me? I mean, this guy is the kind of guy you'd want to give things of.
Yeah, but he comes from humble beginnings. His family's very poor.
Yeah, but that's why I was surprised that people weren't giving him something.
Well, his family was humble. They weren't going to give him anything. Look, you know, the one that makes the money is the one that usually bears most of the responsibility.
You know what I think people forget sometimes? It's not just about money. It's about thoughtfulness. I mean, a gift doesn't have to be expensive to be a great gift.
Right.
It doesn't. You know, there has to be thought.
Well, he said nobody ever gave him anything, and then
but
he
then
used
you
those
remember
binoculars.
what happens the next day? The next day in the mail, we get this, it came to us delivered, this gigantic box of these humongous steaks.
Yep.
And it was from Walter. And he just wrote, a beautiful note in there and said, thank you so much. I wanted you to, enjoy these and have these in good health. And I was so touched by that, because I thought, oh, my God, I didn't give him something so we could get something back from him.
You know what people don't know about Walter? He was country.
Oh, he was.
People don't even know. People think Walter Payton, Chicago Bears. Take it from a guy who had hundreds of conversations and how decent a person he was. But I've never said he was country, man. He was like sentimental.
Yes.
He was,
and he was, you know what? He was much more sensitive. I mean, their sweetness is their reason it's called sweetness, because he was a very sensitive soul. It was very, very interesting and because it's just such a, contradiction in a way, because he was in such tremendous shape. I mean, he wasn't super tall, but he was so built. It was just always amazing to me. And he is one of the friendships that I treasure from that time.
Yeah. I mean, you've been at dinners with Ditka. I mean, all the people that we hung with at that time. We've been to Sinatra, Ditka, Payton, Chamberlain, all the Basta Pasta shows.
Oh, my God. There are just so many.
Rose.
Too many to count. When I think back, I think to myself, wow, I mean.
Urlacher, his very first week in Chicago.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
Yep, it sure has.
Do you remember the only guy to blow us off? We had like 2 years of shows. We were like Bonanza. We did like 30, 40 episodes. We had like 80 shows in 2 years, 3 years. Who was the only guy to blow us off?
You know what's funny, Mike? I don't remember.
Curtis Enos.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, but he did come the following week, though.
Are you sure?
Yes, because we have it on tape. That's why I know.
All right.
Yeah.
And Harold Ramis was a big guy.
Oh, my God. He was so fun.
Anderson High School guy.
Yep,
and Stripes was just on the other night. He was great. Frankie Avalon. The entertainers, Jake LaMotta.
Rose, Mike.
Huh?
Pete Rose.
Bobby Heenan.
Yep.
We had Bobby 3 times.
Yeah, he was.
Anytime Bobby was in Chicago, he says, I'm coming to do that show at that restaurant with the leopard chairs.
Yeah, you know who else was really interesting person, much different than I expected, was Bob Probert. When we had Bob Probert.
Sweetheart.
Yeah, he was so...
Fragile.
He was just such a sweet guy.
We loved him.
I was very surprised when I met him. He was just a really, just a nice guy.
Daniel J. Travante. What was great, we used to sit, we had, not too many, we didn't have a lot of furniture because we had a small apartment, so we'd lay on this couch in 80-degree heat together and watch Hill Street Blues, and then years later, we're doing a show with Daniel J. Travante.
Oh, yeah, we loved Hill Street Blues.
Oh,
For anybody that's
my
never
God.
seen it, check it out. It was an awesome show.
All right, Beeps. First, we got our guy, Aldo. Aldo!
Mike North and BB, you are entertaining the heck out of us, and people in the chat room. People in the chat room are saying that you should have been called Sweetness, BB, because you're so thoughtful and generous, and that would be a perfect nickname for you, Sweetness.
Well, thank you. To be in Walter's class, I feel pretty good about that.
How about that? Got a few questions here. First of all, Steven Zimmerman says that he detects a Minnesota accent in you. Are you originally from Minnesota?
Oh, no. I grew up in Chicago, not far from where Mike, we didn't know each other.
She grew up in St. Ignatius Parish. I grew up in Gertrude. St. Gertrude's right next door to her.
And I will say this, Aldo, just so you know, when we were growing up, we didn't know each other, and it's a good thing because we would not have gotten along.
I'm such a rotten son of a gun. You would have never, no, you were such a goody-two-shoes.
I was a little bit of a goody-two-shoes.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
Did Mike loosen you up a little bit and have you
absolutely.
Get on the wild side?
Oh, wow, baby. You hear that, Aldo?
That sounds like a promo.
Yeah, she was more like, let me put it to you this way. She wasn't Donna Reed in It's a Wonderful Life at the beginning.
Okay.
No. She was pretty hip. She was hot. She was beautiful. But I loosened her up a little.
I was much more into education than Mike was, so that made a big difference initially when we first met.
When Mike told you that he was a high school dropout, what was your reaction to that?
You know what's funny? Honestly, I mean, I was going to college at the time on a scholarship. It didn't mean a thing to me. I really didn't care because I don't judge people on education, on money, on, if you have class, you have class. It doesn't matter, where you fall into them. Those things don't make you who you are. It's inside who makes you who you
Absolutely.
are. So to me, I liked him right from the beginning, and that was that.
That was it. She blew it all. Everything was going her way, and then I come walking in. It was over.
It was funny because I was promoting the show. I looked back at some of the old pictures that Mike has on his timeline, and you can find on Google. And there's your wedding picture, and Mike looks like a brawler, and you look like a princess. It was
oh my God! It's so gruesome. It's like it's like she's standing there next to just something like some rock.
No,
looking. I mean, I was the sports guy. I like to play sports, and
right.
I ran. But she was like Eldo. When I tell you this, that when I first saw her, I couldn't believe how beautiful she was. And even Adam Rifkin, they're trying to figure out who's going to play her. We've talked about this before,
yeah.
So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah,
well, thank you.
You start with the prettiest actresses in Hollywood, and then work your way around. That's the way you start casting.
Well,
we're
looking at stuff, but you know what? Hopefully, we'll be done with the first act soon because we did have a setback with the software. And you know what? It's okay though because we're still.
Yeah. It's fun actually what I'm doing. It just a little bit. It takes some time. That's all. I want to do it right.
BB, have you ever thought of co-hosting your own show, whether it's sports or any other topic? Because you really do have a great radio.
We did a bunch of different things, and I always have fun. But you know what? Truthfully, I'm going to be honest with you. Mike is. It's as you know, Aldo. It's so easy to work with Mike that you never feel like it's work.
That's right.
It's just you're talking. You're having conversation.
You know what? Can I say something, Aldo? For the things I've been called in my life, good, bad, or indifferent, here's what I'm going to tell everybody. This is fact. She produced a TV show. She won an Emmy on Channel 62. Who the hell does that? She won an Emmy on CBS the next year when they saw what we did, and we went over there. Mm-hmm. She hosted, all the ladies that are on now,
right?
All due respect, all the ladies that are on now, she was one of the pioneers. She started with me at the Score. She hosted, you hosted during the 90s on the Score.
Oh, yeah, and that was always fun.
Plenty of shows.
But part of it, too, is because, I always liked sports, too. It's not like I didn't like it to begin with. I liked it before I met Mike. It's not like I just started liking it because of him.
What was the biggest highlight? Hanging with Sinatra or hanging with Jordan?
Oh, God.
That's a tough one.
Or hanging with Robert Plant.
Oh, my goodness.
You know what? Honestly, there's so many.
Or hanging with Jeremy Roenick.
There's so many things I can't even tell you, really truthfully, I can't even tell you the highlight because they're all so high up there that it's just,
Yeah, we love everybody, and I saw a picture of all the XRT people that they started it all. They came in, Aldo, Lynn Bramer, Norm Weiner, Harvey Wells, who eventually became the GM over at the Score, Jeff Schwartz. We still see Jeff. We
Jeff
love
is
Jeff.
one of our dearest friends.
And he's with us at the bar room. And Michael Damsky and Sonny Dubois and Patty Murphy and Joan DeLotte. They're all family. And all the XRT people from Lynn, Norm, Tom Couch, Terry Hemmert, all of them, just great people.
Yeah, just an endless number.
I gotta go. I know Jesse Rogers, Judd Surratt, who's called. How about Judd Surratt? Started as a producer at the Score, guys, and he's calling the Boston Bruins Stanley Cup on the radio.
How cool is that? How cool is that?
How cool is that? And Jesse's on AM 1000. Hey, BB and I are happy for people.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe that's why we don't fit into the business.
I feel proud so much when I see people that, we've worked with in the past, and I see their success, and we're like, wow, that's awesome. I mean, it's just great.
You know what's the awesomest?
There's plenty to go around with everybody.
Everybody. That station, that Score, you know how I felt about that station. I feel about that station, Aldo, with the way the 27 Yankees with the original lineup. But here's the one that's the coolest. I'm watching the Cubs today. And I had to get in the car and I had to go for a ride. I went for a ride. Took me about 10 minutes. I had the radio on. And BB you started going to the game 69, 70, 71 in left field.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I was a vendor, 69, 70. She was just 150, 200 feet away from me, but I didn't know she was. We end up getting married.
Wow.
I bring up the idea of the Score to Danny Lee, and today the Cub game was on the Score.
Isn't that something? And that's the story. That's part of the story, part of the movie. But it still boggles my mind because what were they saying about us? And by the way,
they didn't know you'd make it.
Well, who was our main guy, Chet?
Yeah,
who ended up being our pal.
Yeah, Chet didn't. You know what? I think what it was.
Because we never got mad at anybody that disliked us or was mad at us about business. We didn't care.
No, because you have to understand it's business and people have their opinions,
sure.
and that's okay.
Yeah,
it's okay. I mean, it's part of what makes the world go round. If we didn't have differences, and that's what makes things always better, is because there are differences of opinion.
How about real quick? How about the night before I go to see Dan Mason?
Yep.
That was wild. We talked about 2 days about how we were going to strategize.
Yeah, and yet, you know what? You just walked in there and just, hey, you know what? Don't forget about the other thing. Not that I know, but we were in Arizona at the Biltmore Hotel, and Mike realized that Jerry Reinsdorf, I guess, was staying there too. And Mike met with Jerry Reinsdorf on the balcony of the Biltmore Hotel and said, I think the Sox should come to the Score.
Well, what happened was Jerry was there early. Jerry was he lived in Phoenix. He's got a home there. He wasn't staying there.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Were we at the Phoenician or at the Biltmore?
I think we were at the Biltmore.
Okay, one of the two. Anyway, we get a hold of each other, and he says, I'll be there tomorrow. And we met for about 2 hours. He was already sitting at the table reading the book. I sat down with him. We talked for about 2 hours. I had about 3-4 cocktails. I was starting to roll. And then ended up the Sox went to the Score.
Wow.
And that's how it all started.
Isn't that
Mike
something?
wanted the Sox at the Score. He really did. He was such a huge Sox fan, even though he has a love-hate with them, of course. But that's what happens.
Well, it eventually would sink me because you can't criticize teams, but it didn't bother me one bit.
No.
Because it ended up, look at the Cubs are there now. So, you know what? It's a hell of a... it's going to be nuts, the movie. We're having the time of our life. Aldo, any more chat board questions?
Yeah, the last one is, is there one Chicago sports team above all others, the one team that you say, okay, this team is on, I'm going to stop whatever I'm doing, and I'm going to watch them. So do you have a favorite Chicago sports team?
You know, it's really hard. I'm sort of, because truthfully, I started out as my first sport that I really started watching, two actually, was the Bulls and the Cubs, okay? And I loved the Bulls when I was a kid. I loved them, and I went to games with Norm Van Leer and Jerry Sloan. You know, I thought that was awesome.
Then the guy ended up drinking cognac in our basement 20 years later.
Yeah, smoking cigars and drinking cognac. You know? So I love the Cubs, and of course, I'll be honest with you, when the Cubs won, that was such a defining moment for me. I have to be honest, I was sobbing because I was so overwhelmed by the victory of it, you know, and I thought of all the people that were gone that had wanted them to win. So it's hard for me to say, and I didn't really discover the Bears till much later after Mike and I were married, because I never really wanted to pay attention to football. And I never was a hockey fan or the Sox, you know, fan really, whatever. So it's really a tie. And of course, when the Bulls got Jordan, oh my God, it was just such it was, you know, surreal, because who would have thought if we weren't winning by, you know, if the Bulls lost a game when Jordan was playing, everybody was like up in arms, like, oh my God.
That's when the phones would ring.
Yeah, the Bulls lost.
The year they were like 72-10, people were having a heart attack every time they lost, like once a month, for God's sake.
So,
all right,
tough to say, but thank you so much, guys. It's been a pleasure. I've really enjoyed it.
Oh, it's been a blast.
Yeah, honey, great job. We had a blast.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
BB North, how did you work that one out, man? You
like
lucky
a canary.
guy.
I couldn't stop her. She was like a runaway train.
I loved it. Every word was awesome. It
was. She's the best, man. She's the best. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have too much. I'm just being honest, and that's just telling the truth. I mean, you know, I don't say that. I'll take half. Believe me, she can have it. You know, that's the way I always was. You can't. BB's good on philosophy and stuff like that when it comes to people. She's the one that told me, don't ever keep score. The marriage won't last because you'll lose.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the truth. You know, that's the truth. You'll lose. And she was right. So, hey, we got a lot going on, though, huh? She was great. We started off with a bang.
Yeah.
We've been doing great. We gave everybody the Blues game. And let's see what happens with that tonight. So, you know, they're playing right now. They got murdered the other day, and I took the Blues, but my God, they had that rookie goaltender in Bennington. He got beat up. But, hey, other than that, it's been great, and the weather's starting to break, my friend.
It is. And Bennington, the goalie for the Blues, is in the lineup again today. Kind of a risky move. They've made some changes with most of their lines, but they're going with the rookie. You and I, in our last show, we talked about the importance of having a hot goalie. If he doesn't come through tonight, then this series could be over, because I'm looking here. It looks like the record for teams that have gone ahead 3-1 in the Stanley Cup Finals is an incredible, they've won 27 out of 27 times. They've gone on to win the Stanley Cup 27 out of 27 times. So this is a must-win game for the Blues, and you have them tonight, correct?
I took the Blues tonight. I think they're going to bounce back. They're, they're slightly favored, -120, which means if you take the Bruins, you bet 100 plus 110, you win 110. So even after that drubbing at St. Louis,
right,
with the rookie goaltender, with the young kid or whatever, Bennington, one of that, they're still favored in this game tonight. I was surprised. I thought it would be at least a pick after what Boston did to them. But home ice is very important, and you're right. Usually, it's hard to find goaltenders that are pretty good that have two really bad games in a row. And I'm just looking up at the TV right now with 13 minutes left in the first. And that's why it was important. I had to get our game in early at 7:08 because St. Louis is leading already 1-0. So I will tell you this. That doesn't mean anything because Boston, like I told Aldo before, bullies. They're the bullies. St. Louis, I mean, they're the team that just won their first finals game the other day in their whole history. So we'll see what happens, but definitely winning 1-0 right now.
That's correct, and that whole bully stuff has been a factor in this series, in that the Blues have not been very disciplined. They get hit by the Bruins, and all of a sudden they retaliate, and it's them going into the penalty box. And the Bruins have been pretty good at the power play. So that's another component of this series that needs to be watched closely.
They're great at the power play. They don't miss.
Right.
And another thing that you see is they get a lot of rushes where they're almost successful, where the goaltender's got to play out of his mind. They're a very good team, Boston. St. Louis hoping to get one tonight so they can reestablish themselves, because I'll tell you what, Boston, that was a beating the other day, and I had St. Louis, and that game was over the first 10 minutes.
Right. You're absolutely right about that. The Blues are known for having an aggressive and physical forecheck, but the Bruins have just really done a great job of beating them with speed. And, How
many guys really want to be checked? We played floor hockey at Lawrence and Sheridan at the YMCA. Everybody that knows the North Side.
Yeah.
Okay? Getting there was the fun part, okay?
Yes.
That's all I'm going to tell you. You have to walk down Argyle, Broadway, Sheridan. This is the 70s, kids.
I love
it. It wasn't a bowl of cherries, okay?
When I was...
and floor hockey, nobody wants to be checked.
Nobody.
So I see the Blues players, they hate to be checked. They hate it. And the Bruins know it. And that's what happened the other day.
Yeah, when I was a kid and played floor hockey, I was one of those guys that would take a running check at players and love to just get physical and knock them down. And then one time the guy just stepped away. I fell on my face, had scratches in my face. And I go, maybe I should stop charging, because these guys have wised up to my tactics there. So
Sheridan Road was the best. You'd see everything from hookers to homeless to rich people.
Yes.
Over there on Sheridan and Pridmar, the Edgewater, in a 2-block area, you'd have 9 different types of people. It was unbelievable. You'd have your militants, your country people. Unbelievable.
That's the education of Mike North happening right there, because you saw it.
It was the best. It was the best. I love
awesome.
people watching on Sheridan Road, baby. It's like going to Disneyland.
Yep, how about that? Hey, let's turn our attention over to the Chicago White Sox, because I am looking over the standings, and they are one game under 500 here at 7:42 p.m. Central on Monday night. They've got a game. If they win, they'll be at 500. And only 2 games behind the first place. No, I'm kidding. That 11 and a half games behind the Minnesota Twins.
You're wishing.
Yes, indeed
right?
I am. Indeed I am. But I am really proud of how this White Sox team, that it's not fully formulated. They're far from it. But these young players are playing hard. They're playing good. And how about this? We've talked about him almost every show, Mike. Lucas Giolito. My goodness, this guy is turning into an ace.
He's not only that. I mean, now the White Sox, the last time this happened, it was Frank Thomas and then Wilson Alvarez the next month. You had the shortstop, Anderson, and last month, player of the month, and now pitcher of the month, you got Giolito. Look, you've never heard me complain about the Washington trade, right?
Correct.
Ever.
Correct.
It's been Mancada, Sale, blah, blah, blah. It's been that. This trade, though, it looks like the Sox, who are the brass, Kenny Williams, Rick Hahn, give him credit for McCann, who's an all-star, should be an all-star catcher, and give him credit for Giolito in that trade.
Right.
I mean, the hell of a trade, man, because this kid, finally the light went on. Somebody had to come through for them. It was important because everybody from Covey to Peace to Kopech breaking down, all their guys, Jimenez in his slumps, his bad ankle, nothing's really been going right. Anderson's starting to get better. Mancada's been quiet. I'm still a little bit leery of him, but at least he's holding water right now. We're starting to see a little bit of residuals, but I'm going to tell everybody this. If it wasn't for the Minnesota Twins, they're unconscious. They're 50 and 18. They have a road record that's like 23 and something. The Cubs don't have a winning road record right now. They're 13 and 16. That's why it's going to be tough for them. They got to win some more on the road.
Yep.
But the White Sox, they're playing such good baseball, but they only have one pitcher. Here's the thing. If it wasn't for Minnesota, if the White Sox are 500, you give the manager of the year to Renteria, don't you?
I think so. He's got to be a contender.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, if they win 81 games, which there's a chance they could, with Giolito coming through, Anderson coming through, McCann, but basically everything else, even though the pitching's been better, everything else has just been blah, okay? If they finish 500, if it wasn't for Rocco Baldelli and the Minnesota Twins, I'd say Renteria is the second best, at least the second best manager in baseball right now in the American League.
Hard to argue.
I can't believe I'm saying that, but I am. This team's only one under 500, right?
Yes, that is correct. 29-30, and when I said they were 2 games behind, what I meant to say is that they are 2 games behind the wild card. So they've got a chance to.
Wow.
They've got a chance to get into the playoffs. Texas is in front of them right now, and so they're in a battle. There's 101 games of baseball left. If they can get through those dog days of the summer, find some pitching help. Harp 4803 said, earlier on he wanted to ask you, do you think that the White Sox should go for a pitcher via trade or free agent acquisition at the end of the year? And so I'm going to change the question. Do you think maybe they should trade some of that young youth, those young prospects everybody loves? Should they trade it for a reliable pitcher now that can help them make a playoff push this year?
Yeah, you know what? You got to look at it. First of all, not too many people think about the wild card, number one. And number two, how bad is the American League? Okay?
I know.
That the White Sox in Texas are battling it out. I bet these games. I watch these teams. The White Sox have accorded themselves pretty well. They've gotten better in the field. But both of them have their limitations pitching-wise. So you say to yourself, are we just being very fortunate right now? And I'd say to myself, I don't know. You won just 6 out of 7 on this recent homestand. You guys got something here. You might have a tiger by the tail. So I'm thinking they're going to cut a deal in July or whenever the trade deadline is, or maybe in August or September at the beginning of the month, or bring up some pitcher that's down in the minor leagues. But I think they're going to have to bolster their pitching staff because, man, the heat is going to start coming, the hot weather, July and August.
Yep, you got that right, man. And the Sox today picked up with the 3rd pick of the Major League Baseball draft a college player named Vaughn. And I looked at highlights of this guy. Vaughn bombs is what White Sox fans are going to be saying when this guy finally get called up. This guy hits some dingers way out of the ballpark, and it just adds more to the strong farm team. They've got a number of other players in the farm team. And I know you're going to laugh at this.
No, Willie, look, they're proving themselves. I didn't have them 1 under 500.
Yeah, that's true.
They were horrible the first month.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't that good. I got to give credit where credit's due. I'm not a denier. If I see something, I go, my God, look at these guys. Look at what they're winning with. How are they doing it?
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the league ain't that good either.
Very true. Well,
Kansas City, Baltimore. I mean, Minnesota is the surprise of the league right now, being 5th. I cannot believe what they are doing. You got the Yankees, you got Boston, but really, the White Sox are no better or worse than the other 10, 11 teams in that division or in that conference.
Seems like almost every team in the American League either has poor pitching or poor hitting. The very few teams are strong in both areas. So that's something. We've got a lot of activity in the chat room. Big time White Sox fans like Harp and Zim are just talking all over. They're excited that you're excited about the White Sox, first and foremost.
Give them credit, for God's sake, right? Look at what they're doing. 29-30. I know they're not going to be the Cubs, but you're seeing some development. You're seeing some of these guys. I mean, I thought Anderson, I think most White Sox fans scratched their heads last year with this Tim Anderson. I will say this, though. I heard Tom Brenneman I was watching the Cincinnati game on the Major League Baseball package, and Brenneman and Brantley were talking about the White Sox and Chris Sale, and how it was just a circus over there, how Sale cut up the uniforms,
right.
how LaRoche's kid was in the dugout or in the clubhouse, how they let Sale go, how they let our guy from the, what's his name, from the Cubs go, the Sox pitcher.
Oh,
we keep forgetting his name.
Quintana
and Sale. He said that team was good. They didn't have a manager, and that was Ventura. He says that team was built to win.
Yeah.
And he says if they had those two guys right now, but see, if that's over with now. Now you're seeing some of this come to fruition. But they could go into a 10 or 12 game swoon. They're capable of going either way right now, but you got to love the arrow and where it's pointing.
Indeed. Now let's turn our attention over to the Chicago Cubs. Boy, they've coming off a terrible losing streak that they corrected today with an 8-1 win back at Wrigley Field. Boy, they really needed some home cooking, didn't they? Because they looked pretty bad on the road against some good teams. And in fact, their record now against teams that are 500 or better is down in the dumps. They are at 16 and 18 against teams against the 500 record, and a lot of those losses have been recent against the Cardinals and so forth. What are your thoughts on what the Cubs are doing, and do you think this is just a blip in a long season?
I think it's a blip in a long season, but they are 6-11 in their last 17 games going into today, so they won this game against the Angels, the makeup game. I'm sure that was no treat for either team, but you know what? The Cubs needed to win very, very badly. Trout misplayed a ball in center field, which was a big play for them. The floodgates opened up, and they were ready to get it done. But they're in second place, a half game out. I mean, they're even with Milwaukee in the loss column right now. But by the way, Boston has just scored to make it 1-1 right now in that game with 6:46 left in the first. So it looks like it's going to be one of those offensive series. And now you got to keep an eye on the St. Louis goaltender, who, by the way, let in, out of the goals that he let in, two were horrible. Two were horrible goals that he let in. Should have been stopped by most. This one here looks like a rebound, so a lot of goaltenders would have been beat, so it's 1-1. But the Cubs, to me, are a team that, their pitching's going to take them. I like the fact that they came back and won today. Contreras hit a home run today. Schwarber's just doing okay at the leadoff position, but he does walk a lot. Hayward's doing okay. But what did I tell everybody? Bryant will never play right field again, ever. And Carlos Gonzalez made a play today in right field that was second to none, running into the alley. So the Cubs went out and got a right fielder. So for all you Cub fans, who I'm really surprised, 30% of them don't know diddly about baseball. You don't take a guy like Chris Bryant and just stick him everywhere. And Madden almost cost them the season. They went out right away. Am I right, Aldo? Got a right fielder.
Absolutely right. And I thought it was a brilliant pickup to pick up Gonzalez. I mean, here's a guy who has been an all-star. He's hit for average and power. He's a good fielder. He was out there, and so it was a brilliant move. And now if they can find a pitcher to go along with the needs of this team to help them get through those dog days of summer, then I'll feel a little bit better about their playoff chances, but nonetheless.
Lester was great today.
Yes,
Lester
he was
great today. He came through against a team that thought they could come into Wrigley Field and steal one. Lester, to me, after Carlton Fisk, or maybe it's even now, those two pickups for free agents-wise, two of the best pickups of all time in Chicago baseball.
Absolutely.
There's no doubt. And this Lester, I thought he'd be okay. I thought maybe his years were starting to wane after he won a couple at Boston. No way, man. I love the guy. He's a bulldog. He comes to pitch.
How about it? Hey, we have got to talk about the Illinois legislators. They've now voted to legalize gambling in the state of Illinois. And guess what? You can now Well, not now, but in January 1st, you'll be able to gamble and smoke marijuana at the same time.
January 1st, we can't do it until then?
I guess not. At least for the marijuana
the football season? Is the football season out?
We'll be in the playoffs.
It doesn't matter to me. Can I tell you this? I can't believe it happened.
How about
this
it?
Pritzker guy got up. God bless him. I mean, he did a lot of stuff. I think some of the taxes are going to still go up.
Oh, yeah.
There was a gasoline tax. The politicians awarded themselves a raise, which sucks. I don't know why anything's going up. If you're going to have $230 or $240 million budgeted for sports gambling alone, you should have more than that. I mean, my God, what's going on here? I don't want to see our taxes keep going up when we're bringing in marijuana and we're bringing in gambling, because believe me, that's nothing but money. That's free money that you didn't have. So don't tell me you can't figure out your state finances. So I'm reading where Pritzker wants to give buyouts to pension holders. So this guy's working. I give him credit. I don't agree with everything he's doing, but I agree with some of the things he's doing. And God, yeah, you're right. Marijuana and marijuana, you'll be broke and stoned by this time next year. You'll be walking in traffic. Your wife will leave you because you blew the money on drugs and gambling.
That is so cool.
Unless you listen to Bears Barroom or AM 1000 with the odds couple or Vegas Scores and Odds, then you'll be fine with Eldo and me.
So I understand they're going to have sports books now at, I think it's 7 different venues, including...
Yeah, how does Reinsdorf get this again?
How about it?
And the state owns the stadium.
I know. That is weird,
so
right?
This is going to be interesting.
Yes, it is.
Because I see if you own the stadium, I mean, I might buy Fillins. And then just put up a window right out the back.
I love it.
Start the Little League thing going. It's a stadium. If that's what it takes, Soldier Field, Wrigley Field, Cut Rate Field, or whatever the hell it is, Guaranteed Low Rent Field, or whatever it is, and Thillins. Period.
For those of you who don't know, Thillins is a Little League stadium in Chicago's North Side.
The best Little League stadium. It makes Williamsport look like a cup of coffee.
I agree with you. It is such an...
light. You're 10 years old. You're playing under the lights. The damn Cubs didn't have lights.
Oh, my gosh. I've witnessed many great games there. I never got to play a ball game there myself.
I played there for 2 years on the Cardinals, authentic uniforms, the birds on the bat, the whole thing. You were like a major leaguer.
How cool is that?
Met Ernie Banks, met Nellie Fox. They came there on pro night. Unbelievable, man. Like you met God.
That is awesome. Yep. Mike, it is time to wrap things up. Wrap things up.
I'm good with both.
But I want
great job tonight, kid. By the way, I retweeted the 100 seconds, 100 Bears. Folks, check out the Twitter, North to North, or go to Bears Barroom. By the way, there'll be a podcast coming up right after this, and you'll hear it again. But go check out Eldo's 100 seconds, 100 Bear thing. I love it.
You got it. I got to ask you one question before we leave.
Go ahead. Anything you need,
The new movie, Godzilla, King of the Monsters, is that a movie that you're going to go see in the theater or possibly watch on home video when it becomes accessible?
Absolutely not. I've seen the real Godzilla. Some guy, 5'11" guy in a Godzilla uniform stepping on models of buildings. I love it. Those were the originals. But no, I'm done with that stuff. I like chick flicks now, like Love Actually. I tear up, stuff. I'm soft now. I'm soft. I'm soft as good. I'm soft as grapes. By the way, the Blues have just scored, ladies and gentlemen, to make it 2-1. They're being more aggressive tonight. You're hearing it live on Bears Barroom. Don't forget the Mike North Advantage on Wednesday.
That's right.
We had a pretty good day. And on the odds couple, I got to get on it. I got to get on track. I'm still around 500. I don't like it. Carmen had a good day though, so you know what? We're doing great. And I don't know what's going to happen now, Aldo, because with this gambling being more prevalent, hopefully things will open up, huh?
Well, you might be doing 5 shows a week over at ESPN. I hope I don't lose you, but hey, ESPN is ESPN.
You won't lose me. You're not losing me. You're stuck with me like, you're stuck with me like a bruise.
All right, stay tuned for Box Office
All right,
Barflies. Mike North, say goodbye to your fans.
So long, everybody.